Hey, welcome to Life After Addiction and Indictment. I'm your host, Steve Cloward. This is episode 31. And today I'm excited just to talk about a subject that often isn't talked about or focused on, in business. You don't see business plans that have it included. You don't really hear people discuss the importance of energy in business. Um, it's it seems like it's become a little bit more mainstream the last 2-3 years, but everything evolves around energy. So one of the things that I find as I start my day, there are certain things that I try to do each morning. And they say is when we wake up in the morning, first thing, you're still for 15, 20 minutes kind of in that theta state. And that's where your brain's functioning more on a subconscious type level. Um, and so the things that you say or do or think about early on have a bigger impact and influence your subconscious more. And, from a subconscious standpoint, they say 70, 80, 90,000 thoughts a day going through our head. And, that's a whole nother subject. But as you focus on different things, that has a large impact. So the things you think about, things you say and or listen to, first thing really make a difference. One of the things I do first thing is I focus on gratitude. That puts me in a state that I feel good because, you can't be unhappy, angry, depressed, sad, mad, whatever, when you're focused on gratitude. So that kind of creates an energy to start my day that really impacts me throughout the day. It's also true that, affirmations kind of go along with this in a way. And I say a specific affirmation that I've, said it enough that I've memorized it. And I created that about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. And because of, not only the way it impacts the subconscious, but the energy it creates, the feelings you have really makes a big difference because really everything in the world is energy. I mean, as human beings, we're 70% water. And I don't know if you've ever seen videos or heard anyone talk about it, but the same story applies, to plants. So for example, with water, there's, videos out there, people that have talked about how when you freeze water, based on the music, for example, that you're playing when it's in that process of freezing, and the way that crystallizes in ice when it freezes, if you're banging, this isn't a knock to people that enjoy this kind of music, but that banging heavy metal just kind of, frankly, negative type music to me, and based on a lot of the lyrics, you have a different crystallization in that ice than you do when you're playing, positive, uplifting type music. The same thing goes with, plants. You've probably heard stories where people discuss where they've talked to their plants. And when they talk to their, plants and talk to them in a positive way and tell them they love them and, and frankly, music as well. I've heard when they're saying positive things to that plant, it seems to grow and flourish. But when there's negativity and they speak to it, calling it dumb, argue with it, just through this experiment, you see the plant doesn't really do anything and you'll see leaves, even wilt. So this is a topic that a lot of people really, I don't think really have thought much about because I hadn't until a few years back. And when it's brought up and you talk about how much it affects us in our lives, because really everything is energy, some people, it kind of seems like that woo-woo stuff and kind of just discount it. But what I've proven to myself is based on the things that I've done, the affirmations and the energy where I've focused, I've seen those affirmations come to fruition in my life, almost all of them. And there's only actually three that haven't manifest yet, but I can see one's on the horizon. And it's very important because like they say, where energy goes, focus flows. So when we're thinking of negative things, we continue to think of more negative things, which create negative things. I've got an individual that's was in my life years ago. It wasn't a girlfriend or anything. It was a friend of the family. And it's crazy as I look back, as I've started to, understand and make focus and energy something that I think about. I can see so many examples where it proves it to be true. There was a friend of a family who always just had this, you could never see anything but just this kind of frown, this scowl on the face. And, every response to everything was always kind of negative, doom and gloom. I swear the highlight of this individual's life was driving to the C-store each morning to grab their Diet Coke. And that was it. Everything else was negative. And as I look back and reflect on that individual, I look at everything that's happened in their life and really nothing good. It's just kind of been, in fact, there's been several negative things, but it's just really hard to see people who stay in that and they wonder why they keep getting that in their lives. I know an individual who is incredibly successful. A lot of people listening to this would definitely know who that person is. I'll just tell you this, is out of Utah County. And I remember in one of my businesses, I had an appraisal firm years ago, and we were doing appraisals for a company this gentleman owned. And we also watched him evolve into another business and then shifted into another one that's massive today, multi-billion-dollar business. At least it sold for multi-billions. And we used to say, man, he's the golden child. He's so lucky, But as I've, gone down the road of life a little bit and experienced things myself, there's no such thing as luck, man. We create our own luck, and that comes from energy. It comes from our focus. It comes from what we put out. You can say that the person that works hard and is smart and really, goes for it and is willing to be a little bit of a risk taker, because entrepreneurs have to be, they're going to be successful. Well, that might be true, but what's the energy they've created to keep themselves in that place? Yes, you have to have those other things as well. You just can't have good energy, positive energy, and just be successful. However, you can manifest things into your life that, as we say, oh man, that person that always seems to have opportunity and continues to capitalize on things and continues to win, that's created. We create opportunity, and as you're successful, people say, well, it's only people with money that continue to, have opportunity. And well, how did they become successful to get that money? And is it just because money that someone knew them, or is it because that energy they put off that creates those relationships and those people in their sphere of influence that they're attracted to and that they attract? So you really have to look at it and see what's really going on, because when it comes down to it, I firmly believe it's 100% due to energy. I have a business where I've got a bunch of teams that sell through some different companies we represent, and occasionally I have to interact with them. And there's one in particular who I've been having discussions with the last week to really let him know that he's either got to figure out a different way to approach things with a different attitude and focus, because it's 100% selfish every time. It's 100% know-it-all every time. And it's 100% demanding in the way it's approached every time. And this spins me into a negative space because I've coached him about it. We've talked about it, and there's not any movement at all on his part. So last week I told him that I'm going to have to, either he's going to have to deal with someone else. I mean, I typically don't deal with these guys, but I'm kind of like a father figure to him in some ways. And he's a good kid at heart. I know that. He just needs a little bit of molding. And so I made the choice to try to do that and influence him. But if I can't see any movement, or if he doesn't show that he hears anything I'm saying, which has been the case, and this has been going on for 3 or 4 months now, I told him last week that I'm going to have to let him go. Originally I said, well, you can deal with one of my boys, which he does a lot, but there's still things he comes to me on. And it's just gotten to a place where it creates such a negativity, and a negative, I can feel the physiology of the negativity from him. And I've talked to him about this, and I've told him that, we have to pay attention to those that we have in our circle, in our lives. And if it's somebody that we're consistently engaged with, then we can't allow, is the better way to say it. We can't allow that to stay in our lives because of the negative energy that it creates, which also creates additional negativity in the way I react to others, maybe for a little bit, because of where I've allowed myself to go from his actions. I mean, I'm in control 100% of how I choose to react to it. But I'm aware of how it affects me. And so I know that for me to continue down the path that I choose to go on, where I want to be a winner, I want to be a positive influence, I want to impact people in a positive way, I want to be that guy that smiles and says hi to the cashier in the convenience store, or whatever. I want to radiate positive energy so that I can have the biggest impact on others, but I also want to be around people that do the same for me, because we're all human, and no matter how hard we work at this, we all have down days. We all have times where, we don't have that positive energy, so to speak, happening. And so pay attention to who is in your life. And I'm talking even family members. It doesn't mean you have to cut them off, of course, but you need to pay attention to how much time you spend around them. So pay attention to energy. Notice how things are going in your life. If they're not where you want them to be, you need to be honest with yourself when you evaluate that, because doing a self-evaluation and not being honest with yourself is you're just lying to yourself. You're going to keep getting what you're getting. They say that, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, that's no different than the energy you put out. If you're not going to change that, if you're not where you want to be, don't have the results you want to have, you need to change your environment. You need to change your energy. So changing the environment, if you're in a toxic relationship, if you are at a job that, is negative, or the people in your area are negative, whatever the case may be, you've got to evaluate that and decide if it's bad and you can't change it and stay at that job, you ought to seriously consider leaving that job. That's how big a deal it is. So if you want to win and reclaim your life and have the success that you deserve, that you're worthy of, pay attention to the energy and the energy that is surrounding you, that's affecting you. See, you could have good energy, but if you're around a bunch of negative people or environments that are negative, if yours cannot affect them enough in a positive way to change that environment, you got to get out of it, because otherwise it's going to suck you dry. And that's what happens when I deal with this individual on occasion. It literally sucks me dry. I can feel it. And so I've addressed it, and we've got the rest of this week to see how it goes. I got a text not late, but 7:15. I mean, that's, after work hours, I'm pretty much open and available anytime if it's important, but it wasn't important. And it was a work issue that, is when it's supposed to be addressed. And it's, even if it wasn't after hours, still doesn't need to be addressed that day even. So pay attention to that, pull yourself out of it, but create, even if you're kind of flat. And that's the way I was a lot of my life. I'm kind of a flat-lying guy. I'm not really up. I'm not really down. I've joked before, and I've probably joked about it in a podcast episode in the past, that I used to be that guy in the movie theater when everybody's busting up. I was the guy sitting there saying, well, that wasn't that funny. and now I laugh. I've created a energy and a peace that I didn't used to have. I'm very wound up. I'm very, go, and I've learned to slow down. I've learned how to control that. But the way that I really shifted my energy and started to see different results in my life was once I started saying that affirmation every day, day in and day out. And then I had my daily, goals, little wins that I could reflect on and realize that, hey, I did have some wins today. We oftentimes look for the big ones and don't pay attention, and then don't give ourselves credit. So the little wins that I created, also recognizing and going through that every day, helped create that positive, confident energy as well, which was the biggest thing I lacked after I crashed and burned and went to prison. So energy is a huge thing. If you don't buy into it and you think it's kind of woo-woo and BS, I'm going to challenge you to go do some research on it, because I think you'll be shocked. It has a way bigger impact than I think even me, that has bought into it all in and has done a lot of research, listened to a lot of people who, really can tap into it and access some really cool stuff that are just next level. Because God's created us in a way that we can do things that we don't even talk about and think about, most people. But I've really been working with someone that's on a next level, and the things that can be done are phenomenal. And so just do your research, because if you're not where you want to be, like I was saying, and you want to reclaim your life and you want to create the life that you deserve, it's not as hard as we think. So just focus on that energy. Set your day up each morning to create that positive energy first thing, because how we start the day tends to affect the rest of the day. If you're struggling with your mindset and not sure how to, really work on that and what can help you there, just go grab my free ebook. Okay. It's mindsetisthekey.net. There's, no gimmick, no catch. It's free. Just, put in your email address. You're going to get 3 or 4 emails, after it, just checking in, seeing how you're doing. There's no upsell pitch or anything like that. So go grab it, see what it can do to help you. Because mindset is the key also to be able to create the energy. Because if we don't have the right mindset and we're allowing things to affect us, and we allow the thoughts that come to our minds and the stories we have to continue to build when they're negative, that's not the energy we want. So hope you all have a fantastic day, and go make it happen.